wherever you are in the world. I hope everyone's doing well. Hey, welcome to another Trading Poker Club study session, guys. This is where we take one component of trading, most of which will be summarized on one of your trading poker cards. Sometimes not actually, but this is where we take one trading concept and do somewhat of a mini deep dive into that one concept. And what you're supposed to do with these sessions is really, like I'm always saying, stack them all together. That um, understanding or arriving at a workable um, understanding of proper trading and proper market play is very much akin to a big putting together a big giant puzzle. And many of you have heard me use this analogy before. My twin daughters are very big puzzle girls. There's always some undone puzzle that is strewn across um, our dining room table, and they're very good at it. So they take these really complex puzzles, 2,500 pieces, 5,000 piece puzzles, and when they start, it just looks like chaos. There's like thousands of little tiny puzzle pieces strewn across the table. And that's how you start trading. It appears as though these things we talk about are so numerous that how are you going to wrap your hands around these 5,000 things you have to remember and know and get good at? And it seems daunting in the beginning. But what they typically do is they start separating or grouping the pieces by sections and colors. So I've used this example before where let's say it's a multi-thousand puzzle piece of a white horse in a meadow of green grass with a red barn on the left-hand side, and there's wide open blue skies. And so the grass is green, the barn is red, the horse is white, and the sky is blue. So what they start doing is taking these thousands of pieces and they segment them or group them into the colors. Here's all the white pieces, here's all the green pieces, here's all the red pieces, here's all the blue pieces. And when you start to see the thousands of pieces grouped into those different sections, it stops seeming as daunting. And that's exactly what happens here. We're covering a small puzzle piece each time we meet, but over time, you start to see how, well, wait a minute, this group of pieces, this group of study sessions, they're actually interrelated. They're really kind of pieces of the same thing. And you start to see how cohesive they are and how it's not really thousands of things. It's numerous things that are really parts of the same thing. And when you start to see how all of them tie together, the whole puzzle begins to start taking form. And it is only oftentimes looking back that you realize, wow, I was truly overcomplicating things. I was truly thinking that this was far more involved than it is. And you always sort of realize that backwards. But in my opinion, it's these sessions that really bring the club alive. This is where 90% of the value is. It is in our meeting together once every month, forever, for life, as long as you want um, to solidify these things. All right. All right, guys. Now, how is the sound for you? Because usually, if you have sound issues, guys, it is your end. Okay, that is 95% of the time. So, see how everyone's saying the sound is perfect. All right. So, sound is usually an indication that it is your connection and your end. Not all the time, but almost all the time. All right. So whenever you have sound issues, you have to do some checking on your side. Okay. Sometimes logging out, logging back in helps. All right. Sometimes doing a quick speed test on your connection um, might reveal the issue. All right. Um, and I think that my decibel level is, well, I've done nothing, John. So that is on your end for sure. He's saying it's good now. I made zero changes. So, um, all right, guys. So there we have it. So listen, today, what we're going to delve into is something that is actually not explicitly in your deck of cards, but we're going to talk about, I want to talk about gaps today because I've gotten an extra amount of questions recently from club members regarding gaps. And so I would like to touch upon gaps today. And this can kind of give you a more solid foundation with your taking your trading poker cards and playing the open. But the open, oftentimes you're met with a gap scenario, and that gap scenario sometimes can throw you off. So we're going to try to solve that. All right, we're going to try to solve that today. All right, so let me grab some charts here for us in just a moment. We get situated here. And before I actually explicitly hit on gaps, I have to cover the concept of states because it's important to understand states before we can go to gaps. All right. So what do I mean by states? A stock will a stock has three dominant states, or every cycle that a stock goes through is comprised of three states. We're looking at a 5 minute chart of lift here. All right. And this 5 minute chart is showing three states for the most part. It's showing largely a narrow state where the three main items that we're always looking at, which is the stock itself, the stock, the 20 period moving average, and the 200 period moving average, right? When these three things are very close together, your stock is in a narrow state. And more specifically, guys, more specifically, when both moving averages are flat.
Medias móviles están
So not
planas.
only together, but
Entonces
flat.
no están solo juntas, pero están planas.
Right. Someone has their mic. Tiago, is that you with your mic on? Sounded like Tiago. All right. So, guys, when you have the three things together, you have a narrow state. But more specifically, right, Juan, please. Um, narrow state, but you also have the 20 period moving average is flat and the 200 is flat at some point in that narrow state. That's the purest narrow state you can have. Three items relatively close together, both key moving averages flat. Remember that. Now, why is understanding how to identify when your stock is flat important? Because your most impressive runs will come from narrow states, up or down, in both directions. I'm going to repeat that. The most impressive runs of your entire trading career will come from narrow states. You will have impressive runs from other states as well. I'm just saying that statistically speaking, the vast majority of your best plays will come from narrow states. All right? That's important. So remember, what is a narrow state? Stock 2200, close together, 20 flat, 200 flat. All right? What is a wide state? Well, the simple version of a wide state is simply when your 20 and your 200 is wide apart. All right? When your 20 and your 200 is wide apart, you're in a wide state. Okay? The the purest, the purest, the strictest form of a wide state is when your stock and your 20 is separated and your 20 and your 200 is separated. So the basic definition for a wide state is simply 20 apart, wide apart from the 200. The extra strict or the most extreme wide state definition is my stock is is a a decent distance away from my 20 and my 20 is a decent distance away from my 200. And so you've got that three finger spread that's like that. All right? 1, 2, 3. And it's okay. Both actually serve a decent purpose. You can look at this as more of the extreme wide state, and this is your normal wide state. And sometimes you're just going to get normal, and sometimes you're going to get extreme. So knowing them both is important. All right. In this case, we got extreme. All right. So normal doesn't matter. But sometimes you're just going to get it normal, and it's going to be the top for a while as well, and you're not going to get extreme. So sometimes extreme, sometimes normal, but you have to know how to determine if you're narrow or wide. Now, what's the third state? Well, the third state is neutral. The third state is not so narrow, but not so wide either. So you're here. Like you've clearly left narrow state. You see, you've clearly left it, but you're not wide enough to be like, this is probably closer to the end. You're not narrow enough to be like, this is the beginning either. So the narrow and the wide is actually cleaner and clearer to identify. The neutral is kind of a little more artsy. So it's not hard to get good at it, but the key is, are you far away from the narrow state from which the move began? If the answer is yes, then it's not neutral. All right. If you're super close to the narrow state, then you're certainly not neutral. All right. So that's how you have to get it. Am I wide? Am I really far away from the wide state, from the narrow state? No. Am I really close to the narrow state? No. Then I must be neutral. All right. And that's what I would say here. Am I really far away from this narrow state? No. But am I really close to it? Like here? No. I'm neutral. Does that make sense? You got that, guys? That's how you have to find your neutral. You find the neutral through negation. It's not far and it's not close. That's negation. Not this, not that, then it must be this. All right? Okay. Good. Okay. And so, guys, it still baffles me that when I teach my traders this, that there's still so many traders that forget this. That forget that one of the foundational keys to knowing how you should play a play is, and to knowing what you should expect in a play is to know what state is my stock in. And I'm 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 still consistently surprised at how many people forget this. That when I pointed out, like, well, you were buying above a red bar here. You were buying above these two bottoming tail bars in a wide state. And they're like, oh, now I get it. Now I see it. I'm like, but how are you seeing it now? Like, that's one of the foundational cornerstones for knowing how to come up with high probability plays is to know where you are in the stock's state, in the stock cycle. Which state are you in the stock cycle? All right. All right. If we are simply playing the color game, green trades above red. Tell me, is this an okay buy right there? See, the green takes out red right there. Boom. Is that an okay buy? Yes. Why? Because you are not that far away from the narrow state. This one's okay. As you get higher, you have to say, this is more in neutral territory, right? All right. If my risk is small, and is my risk small? Yes. Mm. But as you get higher, you had better start taking this attitude. You know what the attitude is? Missed money is better than lost money. I might miss, if I don't take this buy right there, I might miss a move, but statistically here, I'd rather miss than lose. Missed money sometimes is better than lost money. All right. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's better to take the risk of losing because the odds are too high. The reward is too big. You understand? This idea sometimes that you should, I don't want to, I don't want to give the wrong impression. I'm a big believer in taking high probability plays, but every now and then it might be intelligent to take a play that you know has decent odds of losing, but the reward is so big that it's worth the loss if it's a controllable loss. I lose on this a lot, but my God, when it wins, it's enormous. So, but sometimes, guys, when you're dealing here, the potential collapse can be so violent that it is not worth, right, from a wide state, taking the play. Miss the, so, just like my dad used to say, some dollars are not yours, Oliver. These dollars, if that happens, that's not yours. But this one, these are, right? So know where you are in your state. Now, why did I tell you that we have to cover states before we go into gaps? Because gaps, the key to understanding gaps is to understand from which state is the stock gapping. All right. From which state is the stock gapping? So check this out. Check how nicely your knowledge of gaps suddenly go to this high level. Watch this. Okay, watch this. Watch how much you know now that we covered this. Narrow state, following morning, gap up. Is that a good buy? Is that a gap buy scenario? Yes. Why? Because the gap is not, it's originating, the gap is being born from a narrow state. The gap is being birthed from a narrow state. Buy gap. All right. Check this out. Next morning, gap. Buy gap? Yes or no? No, because the gap is being born from a wide state, right? Oh, Costa's here, guys. We can start now. We were just warming up for you, Costa. Nice. We can start now, guys. We can start the lesson now. Costa's here. All right, but guys, so you get you follow what I'm. But you see how nicely gaps now. Boom. If you gapped here, you're being born from a narrow state. But check this out. Let's say, for instance, let's erase this off the chart, right? Let's take that off the chart for the moment. And from here, if if from here the next morning you gap up here, I'm not so sure about that gap right there. You see what I'm saying? It's being born from a wide state. The better odds are to the downside. All right. Now, what about okay, so a gap here is cool. What about this? Okay, narrow state, move up, move up. Now gap. That's neutral. And that can go both ways, right? So you can take this gap up as long as the risk is controllable. So it's not the gap here that's better because it's right in the beginning. This gap is not the beginning. So this gap did this, started moving up. Now it gaps. It's not super far yet. It's not close here. It's not way up there. So it's kind of a neutral gap. Now, a neutral gap can go both ways. But if you get a buy signal here, like a strong green bar or whatever, you can buy it. But as long as from this neutral spot, your risk is controllable. All right. So I would say best position here, second best there, worse there from a buy perspective. All right. And you use the ATR. This has nothing at all to do with an ATR. Nope. You don't need that. This has to do with states. ATRs don't measure the state of a stock. All right, it has nothing to do with volatility. It has everything to do with the state of a stock, which we have spent like 20 minutes covering. All right. Okay. So now, with that being said, let's take a look at, right, what do I remember here? Let's take a look at Microsoft. I remember something with Microsoft on Friday here. Okay. So look, here the stock late day the prior day did this. All right. See, it ran up. It didn't go late day this way. So remember what a narrow state is. Your 20 is flat, more or less, and your 200's flat. So here's the 20. Is that a narrow state? No. Okay. Your 20 is not flat. So you don't have a narrow state. Okay. Now, I would say that because your stock ran up here and gapped here, okay, I would say that that's more of a neutral, right? It's not like a gap here because here is now triple wide, right? Stock separated from 20, 20 separated from 200. But you see where the gap here, it's not that wide, not that far. But if you gapped here, now you can say, wow, right? So here, you can regard this gap more as a neutral gap. But by the time this 5 minute bar finishes, I'm now uncomfortable. Does that make sense? I would not want to buy there. My entry is too far. You see? Now, maybe the 2 minute, let's see, let's check the 2 minute and see if we were looking at this on the 2 minute, if that gave us something here. All right. So maybe anticipatory entry into the first 2 minute bar as long as that risk is controllable. Okay. All right. But from the 5 minute charts perspective, no, I'm not buying that here. Miss money there, even if this ran on me. I'd rather miss that than basically be getting in a low odds that there's significantly more too wide, right? Okay. Here, what's the state here? Narrow, neutral, or wide? Narrow. Your best moves are going to come from a narrow state. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at Coinbase. Now, look at the origin of the move. Okay. Gap, and here would be your entry. Good odds entry on the gap? Yes or no? No. Too far off the low. All right. Entry far and far. Good. Good. So these are the things that I'm hoping that for many of you kind of help eliminate those mistakes that I see sometimes where a trader is playing the right card in their deck, right? They're playing the elephant bar plus They're playing the bottoming tail bar correctly, but they're doing it in the wrong spot based on state. And so remember I was telling you how so one piece of the puzzle is elephant bar plus bottoming tail bar. But another piece is state. And like I told you, when you start to put the pieces together, more of the full complete puzzle comes into view. And you're like, ah, now I get it. Not every gap up is mine. Not every elephant bar is mine. Not every bottoming tail bar is mine. Only the ones that are in the proper point in the stocks cycle. Only the ones that are being born from the right state. And it's the linkage of these things that start to really make it powerful. All right. Now, let's take a look at now let's remove this for a second here. I want to remove this because this might get in the way for you. Let's take this out of the way for a second. Flat 200, flat 20, flat stop, gap. The gap is being born from a narrow state. You see that? And that's why the run was a little bit better, was nicer, and the pullback milder and not like a collapse. All right. You're being born. It's almost like a new race is being started here. Why is this a new race? Because it's not continuing something. It's starting a brand new direction this way. This was the direction. Now it's this direction. So a new direction is being born versus this up, now up. So you see how this gap is continuing that. If this were moving up and then gapped here, this is a continuation gap. It's continuing this. But this gap is not continuing this. It's changing that. Does that make sense? Michael says, I just had an aha moment. Nice. I like those. All right. All right. So up, up, gap, that's not starting anything new. Sideways gap, new. Or gap down, new. Right. And so now, guys, now, isn't this one of your cards in your deck? Bottoming tail bar? Now that bottoming tail bar card comes alive. My God, it's not just a bottoming tail bar. It's a bottoming tail bar out of a, it is a bottoming tail bar from a gap. And that gap is being born from a narrow state. It gives more credence to the bottoming tail bar card. It gives more validation. It gives more power to it. If only you knew how, if only you knew how powerful this stuff is. Hmm? You, thought. Please show the 200. I can put the 200 back on there. Let's do it. All right. Okay. So here you wanna try this. You wanna try that emergence out. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. And I agree with this not being so narrow when you incorporate the 200 here, but this sideways movement and the gap doesn't change the fact that that's more of an igniting gap. So the odds of breaking free are higher because of the igniting nature of that gap. So you're breaking free of the zone. All right. Surge off the 200. Yes. All right. However, my trading has turned around significantly for the better in the last few months by only playing reversals of the extreme wide states throughout the trading day. That's been a good strategy recently, of course. Even building into the positions on bars into outer space is that a dangerous way to continue. If you're operating, Eric, with a maximum loss per trade and not going beyond that, then how is anything dangerous? Guys, look, I was, I think I mentioned this or talked about this in one of my study sessions last week, but there is this, there's this disconnect between the feeling called danger or fear and real danger. All right. And a lot of times when traders start talking to me about, is this dangerous? They're talking to me about, am I going to feel scared? They're not really talking about s- real danger. They're talking about their feelings. And what I mean by that is if you do a play, let's say in your plan, your maximum loss per trade is $60. I will not lose more than $60 on any given trade, on any given play. All right. That is one of your stop things, maybe not 60, but whatever it is. So let's say in this case it's $60. And you say, Oliver, is this dangerous to do? Well, do you have a maximum? Are you going to abide by your maximum loss per trade? $60? Yes. Then how is anything dangerous? How? Like, how can it be dangerous if you're going to cut the trade off at your maximum and your maximum is controllable? You follow what I'm saying, guys? Like, it can only be dangerous. You can only make something dangerous if you fail to apply your own rule. Nothing is dangerous except you. You realize that? You're the dangerous thing. You remember the story that I told you before, all right? You remember the story. There was a grandfather um, who felt that his time was very limited, and he had three grandsons whom he adored and loved with his life. And he wanted one last sort of special time with them, so they decided to go camping. And they found this cave to camp out in overnight. And uh, after having a meal and talking a little bit, they all went to sleep in the cave. And the older man was startled a bit by his three grandsons in the wee hours of the morning. They were hunkered in the corner of the cave, shivering, a bit scared. goes over to them and says, "Sons, what's the matter? What happened? Grandfather, grandfather, we keep hearing noises outside and we're afraid." And he sits his grandsons down and says, "Listen, there is nothing out there that will ever be more dangerous and more scary than what's inside of you. You are your most dangerous thing." I never forgot that story. And it's so true and appropriate for trading. The market is not dangerous. Trading is not even dangerous. Day trading is not dangerous. No, you're dangerous. The market is neutral. It is like a tool. The market is like a hammer. A hammer is not dangerous. The person with a hammer is potentially dangerous. A gun is not dangerous. A person with a gun might be, right? A trading strategy is not dangerous, but a person with a lack of discipline with that trading strategy is going to be dangerous. You're dangerous. I, it may sound like semantics, guys, but I think it's extraordinarily important to understand this this difference, right? As long as you have a stop system. So, for instance, is it dangerous to buy right at or near the 200? Well, if your stop is there, do you consider that dangerous? And if the answer is no, then go for it. I would rather you take the trade that you've determined that is not dangerous, that is within the confines of your trading plan, even if you're not so sure, but it's in the confines of your maximum loss per trade, do it. There's more value in you doing the trade than not doing it, as long as you're not going to destroy yourself. And $60 or whatever your maximum should not be destroying yourself, right? That you will gain more insight from the experience, whether it's a win or a loss, doesn't matter. You'll gain more insight, which will pay you great dividends in your future. You'll get more benefit by doing it than not doing it. Years ago, I had a student from Bogota. She was in the program for, I can't remember, maybe it was 2.5 years, and she had never placed a trade yet, just studying. I'm like, you can't get this like that. It, you know, I'm so sorry in advance for being a little crude, but trading is sort of like sex, right? You can't learn it by reading a book. You got to do it, right? You can't study this and become good at it. Right? Sorry about that. But it does drive the point home. You can't study, right? I'm not saying that study doesn't have a purpose, but you can't become a trader studying, right? You have to trade. So, guys, when in doubt, when in doubt of a trade, when in doubt, if the trade is in the confines of your maximum loss per trade, if in your but you're in doubt, do it. I'm telling you, you're going to grow faster just by doing it. But you got to check first. Will I lose less than my maximum if I'm wrong? Yes, do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it. That's what my program is designed to do, to make you not scared of just doing it. My whole program is based on you building experience without you ruining your whole family's fortune, your family's future. You know how many people try to do this with their family's money and ruin their kids' college future, lose the house because they took out a loan against the house. I mean, the stories are endless, guys. But how were you supposed to gain experience, which involves losing, without destroying yourself? That's what my program was designed to do. So you have to be active. When in doubt, take the trade as long as it doesn't destroy you, as long as it's within the confines of your list. Don't err on the side of not taking it. Err on the side of taking it, but responsibly. That's right. I like that. Ben is saying, did it this week. Setup is there, event is there. One last thing, Ben, you missed. Risk is controllable. Boom, do it. All right. And my thing is, and this is appropriate for all of you here that are members of the poker club. If you can name a thing, if it's one of your cards, all right, look, if it's one of your cards, bottoming tail bar, that's one of your cards. If you can name it, that's a bottoming tail bar. If the risk is controllable, well, if the position is not stupid and the risk is controllable, that's it. If you can name it, ah, elephant bar. If the position is not stupid, position is not stupid, and the risk is controllable, it's less than my maximum. Do it, do it, do it. Remember, you can't become experienced without a lot of wins and a lot of what, guys? Losses. How how can you become experienced without experiencing a lot of losses? You can't have just the heads part of a coin and say you have a coin. You need heads and the tail side to have a complete coin. So you're supposed to have a lot of losses. You're supposed to have a lot of wins. You're supposed to have a lot of break even trade. That's complete experience. You're supposed to have disasters and come back from them. You're supposed to have a lot of mistakes and correct them. You're supposed to have a lot of wins and losses. In order to be experienced, you need everything. Again, this is what the program's designed to do, to have you go through everything without I ruined my family's lives. So if you're supposed to have a lot of losses, get them out of the way now, traders. What are you saving them up for? Do you understand what I'm saying? Did you understand what I just said? Get your losses out of the way now. Why save them for later? Right? Do it now. Be a freaking chronic loser now. Just make sure every loss is less than your maximum. But you will eventually run out of losing trades. I'm telling you, you can't lose forever. Responsibly, you can't. Irresponsibly, it's a bottomless pit. But responsibly, you can't lose forever. Right? Right. Nice. I think I have one more thing to show you here before we leave. Yeah. One more thing. Here was you know, here was Robin Hood Friday. You see this move here, bend the gap. Not so keen on that. It ran a little bit more, but boom. What I'm saying is that from this really wide state, guys, the drop can be so violent, it's not worth the risk of getting in to these. You might just get slammed too hard. So from here, okay, boom, look at that. Look at that elephant earring bar there. I love that. But here, nah. All right. Can you fade this? This is Dorina's question. Can you? Well, yeah. Meaning, Can you go the other way? For instance, what is this called? What card is this? What card is that? Anybody know? All right, that's the Bear 180, negative 180 card. Now, remember I said if you can name it. So here's the name, nombre, Bear 180. Is the position in your favor? Meaning, what's the likely direction from this position? Down. So yes, position's good. And if you dive into that red bar at the Bear 180 point in the risk here, as long as your risk is controllable, this meets your risk controllable. Boom, because that's where you get out, right? And take it. You gotta be able to have a card for it though. If you can't name it, this is your card right there. Is it a card? Is it one of your cards? Because if you can't find a card for it, guess what you're playing? A feeling. You're playing a thought. Your thoughts don't have a card. Your feelings don't have a card in the deck. You know that, right? I think this is going to go up. That's not a card. I think it's not a card. I believe that this has bottomed. That's not a card. I feel positive about that. That's not a card, right? So if you have a card for it, that means you can name it, right? If the position is in your favor, like this is a solid elephant bar. All right. So you can name this, right? So let's do it. I can name this elephant bar. It's a bullish elephant. Plus, position is perfect just above the moving averages. So narrow state just above moving average. So position. So wait a minute, let's do it like this. Name, can I name it? Yes. Bar. Position is the position positive? Is the position helping what I can name? Yes. Beautiful position. Is my risk controllable? If the answer is yes, do it. Do it. Right? And the last thing I want to show you guys, then I got to go. We have to go, but I want to take you back to this because this was a big play for a lot of our traders. Right? Baba the other day. Gapped here. That's not a buy up there, is it? Now, would you say that this was kind of easy money? Yeah, was easy money. Look at the 3 minute. Where is that? Here, here. Right. Look at the 3 minute. Well, let's look at the 2 minute. Here. Right. Did I go through? Did I go? Did I pass it? Yeah, it's here, right there. Here's the 2 minute. Uh, did I pass it? What day is it? There it is. Boom. Boom. Can you name it? There, elephant bar. Is the position in your favor? Heck yeah. Is the risk controllable? Gotta make sure that risk is controllable. And, and that's the sound we in on. So guys, know how to play an event that you can name with the type of gap, right? How is Where's the gap being born from? What state is it being born from? And where is your entry in relationship to state or to the key moving averages? So for instance, you would never want to buy here. It's just too, your state here is just too wide, right? So this play is better played that way. And there you have it, guys. Gapping your way to profits using state. Very powerful combination. All right, take this and run with it. Okay. All right, take this and run with it. Now, before I leave you, I do want to, um, bring your attention to something, if I can. So, don't go away yet. Bring your attention. This is something that I believe every single one of my babies, right? Every single one of my babies would have this, guys. Some of you have it. Second here. There we go. Oh, my Trading Planner Pro. Guys, let me tell you something. It is not by mistake that there is a direct correlation between the traders that do this and the traders that don't. I can show you the statistics. There is magic in the pen, guys. There is magic in the process. I've never seen a trader do this in his own head. I've never seen a trader progress and become really masterful, really good doing it in their head. I'll tell you a quick story before I let you go. I was on the desk. Every desk had 8 traders. So I was on one of the desks, one of the 8 trading desks, right? So I was one of with 7 other traders. One trader was the head trader. I was not the head trader. But the head trader wasn't necessarily the most profitable trader either. So just being the head didn't make you the most profitable. The most profitable trader on my desk at the time was the oldest person on the desk. He didn't speak very often. He had a white beard. He brought his lunch made a lot of money, but he brought his lunch in a brown paper bag every single day. And he had this leather suitcase, like a briefcase, that he would always keep next to his chair. And I would watch him out of the corner of my eye. I was brand new, so I'd watch this guy because I knew he was the best trader on the desk. And I'd watch him out of the corner of my eye. I didn't want him to catch me watching him. And I noticed that every single time he placed a trade, he would go into his briefcase, pull out a book, open the book, take a pen, and write something down. Close the book, put the book back in his briefcase down at the floor, and boom. And when the trade was over, he would do the very same thing. Go in his briefcase, take the book out, open it, make a notation, close it, and put it back. One day I fostered up enough courage to ask him, all right, his name was Scott. Scott, I hope I'm not bothering you, but I'm just so fascinated with what you're writing down. Every time you place a trade, every time you do something, I noticed that you're writing down. And he was surprised that I noticed that. And he said, well, would you mind telling me? Is there some secret or whatever? He says, no, it's very basic, Oliver. He's like, I'm writing down initially why I'm buying this and the stop. And I'm like, but why would you be writing down what you just did and the stop? Don't you know where you're going to get out? And he's like, well, yes, Oliver, I know where I'm going to get out. But you see, when I write it down, it becomes concrete. It becomes real to me. When I keep it in my head, it changes all the time. I don't change it when I write it down. I was like, wow. From that very day, I journaled every single day of my life. I have all of my journals all the way back from 1980s. They're stacked in cardboard boxes in a basement. Kept them all. But I never forgot Scott's lesson. He was the most profitable trader on the desk. Guys, there is power in the pen. There's something magical that happens when you take something and it leaves the ethereal world of the mind and becomes something physical. It's the first act of materialization. It is the first act where you create something from the mind that now has physical material existence. It is now something you can touch, look at, feel, see, and it's looking back at you. The process of planning, the process of writing down holds the process true, makes it come alive, and it makes it impossible not to change. We know the difference between keeping something in your mind and putting it down on paper. So, guys, I recently had my own Black Friday. There's a 20% discount on this for those of you who don't have this yet, but I promise you it is going to radically elevate your whole game. Do this, do this. I love you to death, guys. Ciao for now. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We're back at the trading game tomorrow. And if you are part of my VIP Trading Club, we go live in 55 minutes. So get ready. Ciao for now.